craft.
Okay, so the case, the Prodigal. Whoa. Okay, wacht. Talk about the Prodigal daughter case. The group is included with Wilmer Buit, Sijmen Legebeke, Giovanni van Sligthenhorst, and Dooijeweerd. So the main question at hand is, what approach/actions should be taken in quality tools in order to create more opportunity for involvement for Catherine, as well as equally between the family members and also for the business perspective. So, company history. Quality Tools was founded in 1960 by John. Later, John passed away, and Esther, his wife, took over. At this point in time, there was only a Montreal business, but the business was going very well, and she decided to open up to different companies, daughter companies in Edmonton and Toronto. At this point in time, Esther had two daughters, Rebecca and Catherine. Rebecca was in charge of the Toronto business and Catherine of the Edmonton business. At that point in time, Catherine was married with Harold, and they left Edmonton together. However, Catherine was more in house taking care of the children, and therefore Harold had the lead in Edmonton. However, it wasn't going very well, and Edmonton was losing a lot of money. And at that point in time, Esther decided to split off Edmonton as a precaution. Later that time, Catherine also divorced Harold. But Catherine still had shares of Toronto, of her sister's company, but she was forced to give back the 20% shares that she had to Rebecca. Basically, she had no involvement in because of that. So the key issue is at hand is, of course, Catherine doesn't feel she's taken seriously anymore. She also doesn't know how to approach the Toronto office because she would like to get back into the company. She has no ownership and no influence. But also she doesn't see a bright future for her children because she feels that her children are not being treated equally. And she's very afraid of what will happen when her mother passes away. This is also led by the finance model. She's currently getting about $100,000 a year, but she thinks this is not enough. That's also a reason why she wants to get back into the company. But for the company side of view, the company needs to know what advantages and disadvantages there will be if she takes ownership or influence back into the company, if that would be profitable or would go the same as with Harold. But also which actions should be taken to get her influence back and the ownership, because if it's losing money again, or if the actions are not taken with precaution, the same thing might happen again. So now I'll give the word to Wilmer for the analyse.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. So we get to the analysis. We try to analyze the case at hand using the three-dimensional development model. This can be seen on the left here. It's divided into three axes. The business axis, this is about how the business as a whole is, in what phase it is. So startups will be at the bottom, and completely mature businesses will be at the top at maturity. Currently, Quality Tools is at a maturity phase because they've been founded a long time ago, and they've already had some expansions and are very well defined in their company values, etc. Now we've come to the ownership axis. This is more about how the ownership is done within the company, specifically within the family business. We have three options: a controlling owner. The first stage is basically one owner who has all of the control and will make almost all of the decisions. The second phase is sibling partnership, in which, for example, two daughters might co-own the company and make decisions together for the company, etc. And the third option is cousin consortium. What this means is that more and more people within the family will have a stake in the business, will have a share in the business, and will have their own say within the business. Currently, Quality Tools is between controlling owner and sibling partnership, partly because Esther, the current owner, is still very controlling, wants to make all the decisions herself, and is well, a very capable woman. But she's also delegated some of her offices to, for example, her children, Rebecca and Catherine. Now we've come to the family axis. This is how a family business handles family. The changes when having a family business. This is divided into 4 parts as well. You start off as a young business family that well, will start up, doesn't really have to know how to deal with being a family, and eventually they will get to working together and passing the baton on to the next generation. Currently, the company should be at working together, but this is where the company fails as a family business because they pushed out Catherine. And also they should almost be at passing the baton because Esther is now getting older and will eventually either give away ownership or pass away, in which case someone else will have to take up ownership of the business. Now we've come to the possible solutions that we've thought of for the company. We've thought of 4 that all have their own merits, but some will be better than others, of course. The first option is to split the shares between Catherine, Rebecca, and Dennis. Dennis is a nephew of Esther, who has also been, has also worked in the company and has shown a lot of promise as a leader. Splitting the shares evenly will be a equal option, as they will all have an equal part in the company. When we do this, Dennis will succeed Esther as the owner or the head of the business. Catherine will become a manager of the Montreal branch, and Rebecca will become the manager of the Toronto branch. Up until Esther either passes away or gives up ownership, she will train Catherine to become a proper manager. And this can help develop Catherine as a functioning person within the company. The second option is to deny Catherine's pleas. She should get a life, basically. Some would argue that Catherine has made a lot of mistakes and should not be given any shares or whatever. This might not be the best option because not all of the decisions that led to Catherine's problems were made by herself. They were also made by her ex-husband, Harold. The third option is making Dennis a temporary sole owner. This will mean that Dennis gets 100% of the shares in the business. He is clearly the most capable and active within the company, and both daughters will have to take back control eventually after they have proven that they have earned it. This might not be the best option because Dennis is not a direct descendant of the founder. The fourth option might be the best option, by making a second attempt at a third branch and having each branch be run by one person. For example, Dennis, Rebecca, and Catherine will all get one branch that they run. And if we do this solution, they each will get 80% shares of their respective branch. This will mean that they have a decision-making share in their own business, and if we do this, they also get 10% shares in each other branch for a total of 100% shares, of course. This will ensure that they all get enough. They all have a stake in each business, and this will ensure proper communication between all businesses. Now Simon will tell you more about the recommendations.
Right. So our solution that was chosen, our recommendation, was the fourth one, the fourth solution, the one that split the company up into 3 branches, the 2 existing ones and a new one, and gave Dennis, Rebecca and Catherine all one to lead. This includes giving them 80% of the shares in their own branch. How this will roughly look is shown in the chart on the right. As you can see, they all have one in Montreal and Toronto and a potential third one in, hypothetically, maybe Vancouver, maybe somewhere else. If you look at the bottom of the chart, you'll see that everyone has 80% in their own area, as well as 10% of each other's area. This will mean that the company remains connected, and later in the implementation phase, we will explain how this exactly works. Now, in the next slide, it is also, thank you, Wilmer, it's also shown what the risks are. Now, there are different risks regarding this plan. Some of those include Catherine being a very novice level manager, and giving her a branch might be risky. However, under the guidance of Esther, for example, these risks will be minimal. The bigger risks for the company of opening such a new branch are financial. Opening a new office or a new branch has a lot of costs, including equipment, inventory, the office space, the new employees, the salaries for those new employees, etc., etc., etc. What is important to take away, though, from both these risks and from the case as a whole, is that Quality Tools is a very mature company, a quite successful company under the guidance of Esther, and it has expanded in the past. So these risks, though sizable, will be manageable. What's very important to take away from this also is that the main issues, the main problems that Catherine had with her family and that her family had with her will also be solved with this. Catherine will no longer have the feeling that she is cheated or left out, or she's not in the know with her family and her family business. And the rest of the company, Esther, Dennis, Rebecca, they will not feel like they are being held back by Catherine, like their position is being damaged by Catherine, something like that. Now, how will we implement all of this? Giovanni will now explain us in very clear terms. Giovanni?
All right. Last but not least, we come to implementation. And this implementation plan will do 3 things according to the 3-dimensional development model. In the business axis, it will add another element of expansion. In the ownership axis, it will create a fusion between a sibling partnership and a cousin consortium. And most importantly, it will fix the problems in the family axis of working together, as all 3 parties involved, Dennis, Catherine, and Rebecca, will be working together in such a way that passing the baton will be appropriate. Well, how are we going to actually achieve this? Well, I'm going to do this implementation plan according to the 3 steps of the Leuven model. Well, firstly, we come to the unfreezing phase of this plan, which is the plan announcement, training, and role shift. This will involve Esther, the sole owner at that time, announcing her plans that, well, the baton needs to be passed, and she wants to do that to all 3 parties. She wants to do it to all 3, to both the siblings and cousin Dennis. Well, as such, it will happen that Catherine will start her training towards becoming a proper manager, which will be further developed in the next phase. Rebecca will start taking up ownership of the Toronto office, and Dennis will be tasked with making the preparations and starting a new office. So once those steps have been put into place and everyone will start their journey, the change phase will begin, which will be the training process and the change process, which will involve 3 things: that Catherine will be under the guidance of Esther and her new husband of becoming the new manager, meaning that she will train on the daily operations of the Montreal office, and she will be given new tasks on a monthly basis, which those tasks will be delegated to her by Esther. Dennis, in the meantime, will start the Vancouver office and make sure that the staffing is done correctly. All the elements that need to be in the office are present. Personally, I consider Dennis to be the most capable person of doing this, so he will be the one tasked with doing this. And Rebecca will make sure that all the operations in Toronto stay stable. Dennis and Rebecca will kind of support each other in this process and make sure that the setup of the new office will go correctly, and make sure that Toronto stays very stable, as that is the main income for the business. Alongside this, in this process, Catherine, Rebecca, and Dennis will have a meeting together every 2 weeks under the guidance of Esther and make sure that their differences are resolved. There was a lot of communication issues and a lot of there were quite a bit of issues between the three parties, and those will need to be resolved, and they will need to build towards a joint vision on how to cooperatively build run the business after Esther decides to leave. Then, once those things have all been done, we come to the refree phase, which will be initiated by Esther leaving the company or coming to pass, meaning that at that point in time, all three of the parties involved, Rebecca, Catherine, and Dennis, will take up their place in the business of ownership. So officially, Catherine will become the manager of Montreal, Rebecca will become the manager of Toronto, and Dennis will become the manager of the new office. To make sure that this change actually sticks and actually works, two things will be done. For one, the bi-weekly meetings will be continued, and additionally, it will be done in such a way that every 2 weeks a different branch will be visited, meaning that each one will get to see what is going on in the other's business. And secondly, the shares will be split up in a very interesting manner, which I will explain now. Every one of the three parties involved, Catherine, Rebecca, and Dennis, will have 80% shares in their own business, but also they will have 10% shares in the other two businesses, meaning that they will be forced to be involved in the operations of the other business because their own income will depend on it. This will really enforce cooperation and appropriate sharing of information, as if they don't do that, a facet of the business could fail, and that would also hurt their income. So that is the plan we have implemented, which should fix all the issues in the three-dimensional development model and the key issues which were brought up in the case itself.